Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Here it is. It's Friday again, Friday Fireside Chat, quick 15 minutes. This is Stefan Swanepoel. Hi, Jack. Are you there?
I'm here. It's great to see you, sir.
Awesome. Hi, Jack. It is what today? It is April the 3rd. Hope that none of you celebrated April Fool's Week this week, because I think it was a pretty serious week. We thought Jack and I had a conference call early on this morning quickly to try and decide what we were going to focus on. And there were one or two things that I had asked Jack to focus on a little bit earlier for ourselves as a company. And then we thought, why don't we make that the subject matter? Because if it's important for us to do it for ourselves. And basically what Jack and I was trying to get our hands around was the new CARES Act, the Economic Relief Program, the Paycheck Protection Program, the SBA loans. So Jack, I know we can't cover it all. I'm going to start before I ask you a question. I know you looked into it more than I did, but I gave it a good solid read twice as well. Let's just make the disclaimer that neither Jack or I are an attorney or a CPA, and neither does T3 claim to be or to offer any legal or financial services. We simply went and read those acts and those relief programs because we believe it's important to understand them, to see how we as a company, we as T3 could benefit from them. And I will tell you shortly as we go to the morning, we've already applied for some of this stuff. So we think it's good enough to qualify for. And we thought we would give you a quick summary of it. And then don't worry about taking notes too much. Jack and I have actually been working on a document, and we have about, what Jack is about, a 3-pager or 4-pager?
No, it is now 8 pages.
Oh,
so yeah, we have an 8-page. We have an 8-page summary document, which is a bit long for a summary document, yeah. But there's a lot in that bill. That's like a 1,000-page bill. And we pulled in some links and resources for people who. Well,
that is awesome. That's awesome. I generally like 1-pagers, so I like summaries for everybody. But Jack's put together for us. He and his team, the consulting team, have put together an 8-pager with the highlights, the points. We have focused on independent contractors and brokers. We understand your world, so what it could apply to us. And then we've given you links where you can go and read more or apply more. So Jack, let's start off, and let's start with the benefits. Let's start with the easy stuff, and then we'll build into the more complicated stuff. Sure. Talk a little bit to us about the federal tax benefits. How do you see them?
Well, the benefits, there's a few different benefits. One of them, there's a direct payment that will go to U.S. taxpayers, and it is based on income. If you are below $75,000 a year or $150,000 a year married filing jointly, or $112,500 a year head of household, which is usually a single parent with a child. So if you're below that, there is a direct payment of $1,200 that the government has said they're going to be sending directly to the taxpayer, plus $500 per child. If you're above those income numbers, there's still a benefit. I think this is a point of confusion. A lot of the stuff we read online, some people got this wrong or didn't quote it correctly. If you're above $75,000, there's still benefit available. It just goes down, and the amount goes down that you're eligible for. So you can still apply up to $90,000 as an individual. And then in my notes and in the document, I've got the rest of the guidance there. So just so that is available, that's going out to federal U.S. taxpayers. The government has been saying it's run through the IRS. They're going to do it via direct deposit. If you've paid your taxes via direct deposit, otherwise they're going to send you a check. Earlier when this was released signed last week, released really over the weekend, they were saying it would be 2 to 3 weeks, but I'd put a caveat behind anything there. It looks like everything associated with this bill is taking longer than expected. So I wouldn't expect it in 2 to 3 weeks. I would expect it will take longer, especially if you're getting it via a physically mailed check.
So guys, relatively small amount, $1,200, of course, not important. You're going to get the check. You don't have to do anything about it. We just put that up first on the list because it's easy to understand, easy to get out of the way. It's not going to change your business or life at all. Then we're going to move on to the next one, which we think is a little bit more interesting, and that's SBA. T360 ourselves, we are a debt-free company, so we don't run with any debt whatsoever, and we have not leveraged the business, so we are very strong financially. But even with that said, we actually applied for an SBA loan this morning. We actually submitted, we went through this process, not only so that we could also talk about it, we researched it, we spoke to our CPA about it, and then we actually went through the process ourselves and we submitted it because, again, during bad times, you want to make sure that you never run out of cash. And the rates on this loan and the amounts on the loan are so favorable that, Jack, let's talk a little bit about it. I've got my highlights on my own notes here, which where's my notes? I got my notes, but take me through your notes and then I'll take
Yeah, so the loan size, the max loan is equal to 250% of your average monthly payroll costs for the time period between February 15th and June 30th, 2019. So they're looking at kind of the same period in time a year ago is what they're using to baseline. So 250% of your payroll costs. The purpose of this small business loan is to keep your employees employed through this market period. So that's why they've kind of sized it at that level, because they're looking at what were your payroll costs this same time last year, and that's how they're doing it. The maximum loan size is $10 million. So if you have an extraordinarily large payroll for a real estate company, that would be, that's your max. So you're not going to go over that. And there are some other rules. If you weren't in business that same time period a year ago, they have a different measurement they use. So that's how that works for sizing of the loan and how much is available. It is a forgivable loan, meaning that as long as you keep everyone employed, that it is forgivable at the end of the loan term, and you have to keep everybody on board through I think a June timeframe in order to be eligible for the forgiveness.
Is that the same as what I've been reading about, the SBA disaster loan program, or those two different programs?
That's a different, the economic injury disaster loan program is a different loan program that people are eligible for based on experiencing an economic disaster. And that loan program is commonly used after hurricanes and other incidents that affect business operations. This one is truly it's called the paycheck protection loan. It's really specific. The PPP, yeah.
Paycheck Protection Program, yes.
Yeah.
So with regard to the SBA loan for you guys, because there's multiples, and again, they're detailed for you in the document which we put together for you. On the SBA disaster loan, my notes quickly, which I went on them, if you haven't done one of those before, and we had not looked at it before now really today, loan amounts will be up to $2 million for this one. They basically use your credit score to apply. The interest rate is 3.75 over 30 years. Payments for the first 12 months can be deferred. They look at your 50% of your gross profit over the last financial year as the way to determine the amount. All shareholders or owners of the company of more than 20% will have to sign personal guarantees. You can't do any debt consolidation on it. Approval time seems to be super fast. They're talking about a week, but I think Jack's right. We should allow more time. That's what their website at the moment says. So that sounds super fast. But they say approval within about a week and about 30 days to close. So again, that's even a third option that's now over the PPP program is the disaster program. So a number of programs out there. Anything on any of these programs that you think we should tell the independent brokers on the call?
I think the only other thing I'd want to make sure that they knew about were the unemployment benefits that are available both for their independent contractor agents and for their staff. The Act does cover unemployment both for independent contractor, and they call it gig workers, or people that are not on a W-2 or salary type of arrangement. They did extend the unemployment benefits to that population. If your staff is employed with you, then they can always apply for their state unemployment, and then they get the federal benefit on top of that, which is up to $600 a month on top of their state unemployment. The intent behind that unemployment provision is to really top up the salary person to get them pretty close to $4,000 a month was the goal, to keep them at full paycheck employment or pretty close to that. For your independent contractor agents, they can now also apply for unemployment benefits, but they're only eligible, and some of this may depend on your state, but for the federal part of that, they're only eligible for that $600 a week payment on top of the any state benefits. Most states don't have any kind of unemployment insurance for independent contractors, so that's how that's intended. That's how that is intended to work. We have heard through people that we've worked with that they are the unemployment offices are very, very, very busy. So if you do have people apply, just tell them expect to wait on hold for a while. and then it will just take time for them to get through and get applied, because with as many people have applied for unemployment, of course, the state unemployment offices are quite busy. The document we prepared has a link to all 50 states unemployment offices, so
Awesome.
you can go
Cool.
through that and find out where you need to send your people. Of course, do your own research for your own state, but we've at least given you a head start on that if you need it.
And just to recap again, guys, we're not promoting or pushing any one of these, and we understand that you might feel it might not apply to you. We don't have anybody in our company at the moment applying for unemployment. We believe that there are many other solutions. We haven't even furloughed anybody in our company. We believe that you can actually power through this. So, I mean, you could consider hourly reductions, furloughs, maybe performance pay. I mean, there's another other activities. We're trying to continue at full blast. We're trying to service all of our existing customers. Fortunately, we literally have a few hundred. So we're trying to service our existing customers, which is keeping us busy. Jack actually said to me today that we had a surprisingly good March. Our March was even better than our January and February. So there are many companies still trying to do something, and we believe that the winners will continue. And it was based on that research. Most of you know Jack and me as glass half full kind of guys. We don't like glass half empty. I've never believed in end of time theories. I'm always very optimistic. So we went and did some research to try and find out what happened in previous recessions or depressions or viruses or pandemics or market collapses in the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s. And we found an interesting study where many of these studies tend to say, well, so many companies went out of business. There was that one study, which I think was 2000, which said that about 17% of the 4,700 companies which they researched in the study, fared badly. And of course, that's devastating. That's 1 in 5, 1 in 6, and that's not good news. And my first question to Jack was, well, Jack, did some of them actually do better? Were there good ones? And Jack came back, give me the stat you gave me. That was that 9% one?
9% of companies actually did better in the recovery from the downturn recessionary period in 2000. And so it's interesting to look at what those companies did because obviously they did something right. They came out of it stronger.
And the good thing you told me, which I liked a lot, was not only that they, of course, picked up when the recovery came, and they didn't even just do better, but they actually did 10% better than their competitors who also recovered and also did well. So they outperformed even the guys that recovered. And that's where I know T360 is going to be, but that's where we would like you to be as well. I did a call this week for one or two of your fellow T3 Fellows companies.
Yes.
Matt was one of them. So he had asked me some questions, and it came back. What are you going to do that when this market turns around, whether we're going to debate whether it's a month or 2 months or 3 months, when it turns around and it comes back to normality, how are you going to be able to leverage the situation at that point in time? You should not be in downturn mode. You've got to switch out of this survival stuff. I know we have to go through this, and I understand it's difficult, and I understand we're potentially going to get hurt. I understand there's an extended period of time and we're stuck at home in restaurants. I absolutely understand and feel that, and I understand the deep cuts. But you've got to get out of survival mode and think winning mode. At this point in time, if you can't make money, then give back to the people around you that you can support. But when the market turns, what are you doing today to be ready? Jack, what do you think about that?
Well, like we talked, you and I have talked about this with our team and said that right now, engagement is key. If you're in a market situation where you can't transact because real estate's not an essential service in your area, or everybody's locked up and can't get out of their houses, that right now is the time to engage and to show up and be there. And T360 is modeling this behavior. We've had over 2,500 people come on a webinar, participate in something we've done in the past 9 days. I mean, that's a lot of engagement for us. So we think that being there, being present is the right response, because when people do come back and are ready to do something in the market, they're going to remember who engaged with them through this period. So that's the glass half full. That's the all forward. The other piece is, and I'll reference some of the Relief Act, some of this, and we have some questions coming in from the audience. The purpose of the bill and some of the relief is to keep people in operations. Well, guess what? You can do a lot of things with your staff if you're not doing transactions. You can improve your business. You can pick something and make it better or systematize it so that when the recovery does happen, you're better positioned to really hit the ground running. So don't get depressed. Don't get, and I know our audience is pretty forward looking, so I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, but that's the right mentality, is if you are able to hit the ground running as soon as the market comes back, positioning now to do that and using some of these potential relief areas to do that is a way to be in that position.
a company's performance after a recession not only depends on what you do after the recession, but what you do during the recession.
For sure.
Of course, we don't want anybody to run out of money. I mean, you know, I'm sorry, in some cases we're going to have to bite the bullet and we're going to have to absorb some losses. We'll have to power through that. But whether it's a downturn or a recession or a virus or a pandemic, this time creates opportunity, we believe, absolutely for T3, but we also believe for everybody else who's willing to seize it. So use this downturn to retool your company, restructure your vision, remotivate your people, prepare for the upturn, and remember that it's now time to be a servant leader and to step up and help the industry. It's 11:15 according to my computer clock here, Jack. From Jack and myself to all of you, thank you very much again for your time. We like to be on time. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you next Friday, which will be April the 10th. Jack from his home in Austin, and I'm from my vacation home in not California, Hawaii. Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe.